OK, and we're back. So the whole goal of this series of, I think it's going to be like 3 videos, is proving some things about limits and their values. So let's just keep on going. Let's prove that the sequence b sub n given by -1 to the n plus n all over n converges to 1 as n goes to infinity. So, well, in some sense, we know how it's going to go. We're going to start by saying consider any epsilon bigger than 0. We'll let n be, whatever it is that we choose. We'll then consider any little n in the natural numbers and assume that little n is bigger than big N. But let's take a moment first and try to decide what our big N will be. And let's go back to the scratch walk. Goal, -1 to the n over n plus n over n. We think that the limit is 1. We need to try to figure out what values for n result in that happening. So let's just go through and simplify. So let's distribute -1 to the n all over n plus n over n. N over n is 1 minus 1 is equal to -1 to the n all over n with absolute values. Absolute values distribute over division. Absolute values distribute over multiplication, so they'll distribute over exponentiation. Hey, cool. So we've now reduced our goal to just being 1 over n is less than epsilon. It looks like we need then n bigger than 1 over epsilon. All right. So let's let big N be 1 over epsilon. Let's let n in the natural numbers. And let's assume little n is bigger than big N. Then, well, we can now just go through all the motions. Absolute value of bn minus 1. We've just figured out what that's equal to. That is equal to -1 to the n plus n over n minus 1 is equal to -1 to the n over n plus 1 minus 1 equals absolute value of -1 to the n over n. So there's just some bits of raw algebra. As absolute value distributes over multiplication, it follows then that the absolute value of b sub n minus 1, we've just shown that it's the absolute value of -1 to the n all over n, is equal to absolute value of -1 to the n all over absolute value of n is equal to 1 over n. Now we can take advantage of all of our assumptions. We assume that little n is bigger than big N, as little n is bigger than big N equals 1 over epsilon. Absolute value of b sub n minus 1 is equal to 1 over n is less than 1 over big N. Right, replacing that little n with big N replaces this denominator with something smaller, so this whole thing is bigger. That's equal to 1 over epsilon is equal to epsilon. exactly the way we chose it to be. Thus, what have we done? We've shown that for every epsilon bigger than 0, because we considered any epsilon bigger than 0, we chose a particular trace of big N, so there exists some big N, such that for all little n with little n bigger than big N, we considered any little n, we assumed it was bigger than big N, and we showed that the absolute value of b sub n minus 1 is less than epsilon. So b sub n converges to 1, exactly as the thing claimed. Cool. So again, this was a little 5-minute video. I'm going to stop it again. I'll flip to the back side of this sheet and talk about the problem on the other side. See you in a moment.